Welcome to It's Been How Long? The podcast about Cherry Hill High School East students from the late 1970s and early 80s. This is Kara Siegel. So, welcome to It's Been How Long? And I'd like to say hello to Robin Garland Bair. Welcome in to the studio today. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm so glad to be here with you, Kara.
Yeah, thanks. You're actually my first listener, so I'm very excited to interview.
Yeah.
Since I just dropped the podcast earlier today.
Well,
So
let me hijack for a second and
yeah.
say that I think this is a phenomenal idea. I think a lot of people are going to be interested to listen, and I did have the opportunity to listen to your maiden voyage this morning with Jeff Lyons, and I thought that was so interesting, fun and interesting. I can assure you that my story is nowhere as interesting as his. And I would be a whole lot more comfortable to be on your side of this. And so I would like to make you an offer.
Okay.
When you get comfortable doing
Hmm.
this, I would like to interview you.
Oh,
I know
ab-
people would love to hear what's been going on in your life. If you ask me at some point during this podcast, like, what was my secret dream career, it would have been like to be Katie Couric. So let me
oh,
do that for a half hour sometime.
oh no, that would be great. That would be
I would
great.
love to do that. Please take me up on it.
For sure. I think it's in your genes. Your dad was a radio man. So, I mean, we all grew up listening to him. So, yeah, it's there. Okay. Thank you for the offer. I will take you up on that.
Okay, great.
Good. So, it's been 40 years. So, what's up?
Um, well, I have had a wonderful life in general since high school. Went to college at a small liberal arts school in Maryland, what was then called Western Maryland College. It's now McDaniel College, and I majored in political science. And upon graduating, they actually hired me to finish up a capital campaign for a physical education learning center, which is just a fancy term for the school gym. But it was big and fancy. And when I finished doing that, it just turned out that that was a really good, the first job that I like fell into turned out to be a great match for my personality and skill set and all of that. And so at that time, the guy that ran the annual giving program at the college was just moving on. And they put me into his position without the title and the pay. But anyway, I learned a lot for a couple of years. And then I actually met my husband. And because I was going to be living closer to Baltimore, I got a job at the University of Maryland, the professional campus, which has the health science schools, a law school, school of social work. But I worked for the dental school for a few years, and I did their fundraising. I was editor of their magazine, and I loved that job. That was my best job ever. And but then I was offered an opportunity to move to the campus office to raise the big gifts, like $100,000 and
Oh,
up.
wow.
I did that for a few years, and then the dean of the dental school, who I knew well and worked really well with, became the president of the campus. And this is like a once in a lifetime. He was like, "What job do you want?"
Wow.
He laid out a few different things, and one was to be the director of development for the campus. And so that's what I did. A big, big mistake because I
Oh,
was too young, too inexperienced. And I mean, really, I learned that just because a good job opportunity is offered to you doesn't mean that you need to take it. And I did not get that at the time.
uh,
So, I was finishing up a master's in business at Hopkins, and, I guess I thought I knew a lot more than I did, but I faked it until I made it and
oh,
hired. My saving grace was that I hired really good people, and they just made me look good. I didn't know what I was doing. But um, my husband and I ended up deciding to start a family. And so that was kind of a gracious way to, to move on. And in 1994, I had my first daughter, and then 96, and they have really been my life's work. And yeah, and then when they went to um, school, I had always thought I would go back to work, but my husband and I just decided that everything was so under control and easy, and we just fortunately didn't feel financially like that was necessary. We would have to make some sacrifices, but I just became like a professional volunteer at their school, at my church. I've
That's
done,
great.
some really interesting things volunteer
Yeah.
wise, and
I don't know if you remember. So I lived in Maryland briefly, and you were on bed rest with your oldest. And that's the last time, because I don't know if we connected at one of the reunions, but that's the last time I remember coming to visit you at your home in Maryland when you were on bed rest with your oldest.
that would have been 20, that would have been 30 years ago because she's
Yeah.
20.
Yeah. 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 That's right. That's wow. That's something. Um, so what kind of stuff do you do for fun?
What do I do? Well, I have a 2-year-old grandson,
Who's
and
adorable.
he is just the joy of my life. And I spend 2 mornings a week with him. And this is still relatively new because I was diagnosed when he was just an infant.
Um,
I have had in this cancer journey, and I guess we should say that because I
hmm,
haven't said that yet.
yeah.
I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in December of 21.
Hmm,
And I started treatment like the end of January of 22. And he was just a baby. And so when he was born, I was totally there for my daughter that lives 10 minutes away, taking care of him all the time and helping her. And when I started treatment, it just got really hard. And I really could not be alone with him. I
hmm.
guess I was just not able to take care of him. And so my heart's desire, the majority of his life has been to be the kind of Grammy I want to be, to go pick him up. I've had a car seat in my car that I didn't get to use for so long, a crib in my house. I didn't get,
Oh,
but anyway, I'm doing all of it now. I'm
that's
making
wonderful.
lost time. And so I am spending as much time with him as I can. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm sure he he raises your energy level with his energy.
yeah, and the other thing I've spent a lot of time doing over the last, I guess, I don't know what it's been, year and a half or whatever since I was diagnosed. My younger daughter asked me to write what's called a legacy book. I
Okay.
don't it just gives you a bunch of prompts to sort of write your life story.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, so that took a whole lot longer than I expected to. It's not all that great, but it's done, and it's, a
Well,
gift for my daughters and grandson in any future.
yeah. I mean, I tried to interview my folks and my aunts and uncles and on video back when I'm recognized. And I think if there's a point in your life, and for me, I think it was a little bit earlier, where having that history was really important. And so I think getting my parents on tape, telling the same old family stories that are told around the Seder table, I wanted those. I wanted those in their own words. And I was able to do that. It's kind of like all those photos you say, once I retire, I'm going to put them in an album. I haven't done that, but it's a really valuable thing. So I think having that for your family is wonderful.
But and I also spent a lot of time finishing up all those photos that you're talking
That,
about because I wanted to, the stuff that didn't get done for a long time.
right.
When I was diagnosed, I thought I got to get this done.
Good.
It's so
Good.
organized, and life is, my business is in order. So,
Okay.
but that takes time to do. But
Yeah.
that's
It really does. So what did you enjoy doing back in high school?
in high school, I spent the majority of my time on like class government stuff, and
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if there was a debate about what time senior or whatever seniors were going to be let out of school, whatever it was, I found myself in the middle of it, whatever the debate was or the cause, the planning of different things. Um, and so, outside of school, I mean, I had friends, but other than, I played the piano, but
Were you
not,
on any teams?
no.
Right. You didn't cheerlead? No.
that,
Did you?
that was middle school, but I don't think
Okay.
I was
Okay.
there for middle school.
Okay. Okay.
Different junior highs. I
What?
went to Heritage.
No, no, I went to Heritage. Yeah.
Heritage.
Yeah, I was at Heritage. Yeah. That's why I was like, I remembered you as a cheer or
I
part
was
of. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I didn't think I was crazy. Yeah.
no, I didn't do that.
No, 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 no. But yeah. So that's funny. But you didn't do that in high school.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So you did student government. And did you have a job back then?
Oh, I did. So I started working when I was 14. I worked for Borden Realty, and I would just answer the phone and help the realtors, and it was actually pretty interesting. Then, when I was old enough to have a real job, I worked in a clothing store for a little bit. And then, then
Yes.
I got a job at Old Orchard Swim Club. You and I worked together. We
Yeah.
ran the swim club to 9 to 5, and um, oh gosh, what was the other? So there was a song we
Oh, yeah.
danced to that I was thinking about actually a couple weeks ago because I heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
Oh, you work hard for the money.
Yes, 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 yes.
Work hard for the money. Anyway, so I worked from my junior year in high school um, until I graduated from college at Old Orchard, and I also would travel all over Cherry Hill, the east side and the west side, on my bike, teaching life saving
Oh,
courses
wow.
at other swim clubs when I wasn't at Old Orchard. So
Uh, yeah,
fun.
I didn't join it. So I took my WSI when I was in first year in college. And so then I joined it and I did that for two seasons. And that was a lot of fun. That's where I first got to know you.
Yes.
So that was very enjoyable. I think the one thing that I recall is when they would have the like parents' night where like the parents would come and drink and swim. And that was always like you're always like totally on guard because you're like someone's gonna get drunk, someone's gonna pass out in the pool, and who's gonna be the one that has to go in after them?
You remember Mr. Mack? The Mack?
I do. Oh my God, he scared me. But yes,
Yeah. Yeah. He's actually a softy though.
yeah, yeah. I think often that is the case. Yeah. So directly after graduation, you went on to, you said Western Maryland, and then how long were you in that first job? You were saying kind of as a fundraiser.
So I was their campaign assistant. It was a 1 year position, and that's when the other guy left, and I became the coordinator of annual giving. I think I did that for 2 years.
And
So
then
I
you
was
got
at my old college for an additional 3 years. Yeah.
okay, and then that's when you got the offer of a lifetime.
Well, no, first I worked at the dental school for a
Oh,
couple
okay.
of years, and then I worked in the main office, the campus office, raising the larger gifts, and then
Then
the
you got that.
dental school was promoted to president, and
Yeah,
so
that's where that's when that opportunity took place. So where are you living now?
so I live in Columbia, Maryland, which is really between Baltimore and Washington.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And is this the house your kids grew up in?
It is.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So have you had much opportunity to travel the world or the country?
Yes, I have, which has been something that I have really enjoyed. Um, I've been to Africa
Oh, wow.
5 times. Once was as a tourist on a cruise ship around the tip of Africa, South Africa. But the other four were to Uganda.
Oh, okay.
As a result of my first trip to Uganda, I got really involved with a nonprofit, and for several years, was an advocate for this nonprofit as a volunteer, and I would gather information on children that needed to be sponsored there, which is one of the reasons that I went there so often. And then I would come back and try and find sponsors for them. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So one of my interests is food, and so I'm sort of curious, having never been, what is there a distinctive dish of Uganda that you
well, my favorite thing is chapati,
okay.
which is kind of like oh gosh, um, like a wrap, or it kind of looks like a pancake, but it's not sweet at all. And you put like avocado and tomato and cilantro in there. And, I've tried to make it at home, and I know other people that have tried to, also make it, and it's just not the same.
Of
I
course
don't know
not.
what they do there, but
Yeah.
it's just, love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'll have to look for that. So do you have a favorite place that you've been to, or a favorite specific trip?
Yeah, my favorite place is St. Martin's. That's where my
Oh,
husband and I honeymooned, and then we went back for our 30th anniversary, and I just love it. We were supposed to go back in I think it was 2020 and take our kids. This is before we had a grandchild, and COVID happened, and we had to cancel. And
yeah. That put the damper on a lot of people's travel.
yeah, and then now with a grandchild,
Yeah,
it's
because that's your vacation.
right.
Um, so have you met anybody famous besides your dad?
Actually, through my father, I've met a number of people. I mean, when I was little, we used to go to the Latin Casino with him, and he would often introduce the people that came. And so, I mean, two that jump out. I mean, I really did have an opportunity to meet a lot of people, but and I'm talking about just like Glenn Campbell.
Wow.
He would be somebody that I just said hello to, and I was really in awe of Glenn Campbell. So I would much rather have met Donny Osmond, but my dad didn't do that gig. So, but I, met Glenn Campbell, and then also my parents were friendly with Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet,
Oh yeah.
and so they actually, like came to our house,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, so
Those are some throwback names that will only apply to the listeners of this podcast.
and of course I knew Wee Willie Weber. Remember Wee Willie Weber?
There's a song with that, or
No, he was a Philadelphia
oh,
person.
okay,
He had a children's show, but he
okay,
also, like my father, was a radio announcer on WIP. And
okay,
we got to do the Wee Willie Weber show, and he would come for dinner, and people thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, wow. So, harkening back to our years at East, was there a class or a teacher that influenced you well beyond school?
Doug Lyons, without
Oh,
now, he was never my teacher. He did
mm,
teach a class, um, and it was something English related, but I was not in it. But he was my person at East, as a class officer. We would all have homeroom with him. And, he guided me through a lot of things in my personal life, as well as, what I was doing in high school, and just supported me in ways that go far beyond what his job description was. And in fact, I just was messaging with him recently because Sharon Linden and Meg Phillips were supposed to come to my house a couple of months ago. And I ended up getting an infection from a procedure, and we had to cancel it. But they're going to find this out when they listen to it. Unbeknownst to them, I had a surprise planned. I had
oh,
Doug Lyons scheduled to join us virtually. and also Mary Ann Negrelli. I don't know if you remember her. She was a year younger than us.
Okay.
And Sharon Linden and I were very good friends with Mary Ann. So anyway,
Yeah.
I was disappointed, and I have not been able to reschedule that yet, but
Yeah.
he's
Well,
a
that's cool. Um, so you still have friends at East that you're in touch with, yes?
so the two people that I'm the closest with are Betty Ann Street and Meg Phillips. And Betty
Mhm.
Ann has been, they've both been lifelong friends. Betty Ann lived down the street from me. Meg and I met at the Cover Bridge Swim Club when we were about 10, and have been great friends since. So those really are my two people. But in addition to that, Facebook has brought me back in touch with some people. And, one of the big surprises of life is that I consider Reggie Wu a really close friend. Like, he knows a lot of what goes on in my life before other
Wow.
people do. He and I bonded because he and Lisa were involved in fostering babies, and
Hmm.
I was a CASA. This was before I was diagnosed, to a teenage girl, which is a court appointed special advocate.
Okay.
So we had this mutual interest, and we started messaging. And when I went to New Jersey like 2 summers ago, I think it was, my daughter came with me, and we went and sat with Reggie and Rob Thurston, and they shared stories with my daughter. It was really fun. But he is just a great guy with a great story. I'm glad it sounds like you're going to have an opportunity to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I keep in contact with him. I'm back in contact with Sharon Linden for a while there. You know, there wasn't a lot of contact, but another sort of big surprise is that through Facebook, I reconnected with Carol Becker
Hmm.
and Trace Pagano,
Okay.
and Marty Rickson, and the three of them have been so incredibly supportive of me on this cancer journey. Um,
That's
and,
wonderful.
so
Yeah.
that's been sort of overwhelming that people from that long ago that I was out of touch with would take such an interest and constantly be, connecting with me to see how I'm doing and all that.
Oh, that's great. So did you have a high school sweetheart?
I did. Leon Rose, who has
Oh,
gone on to do wonderful things. I don't know if you followed his career.
I have not.
Oh, you have not? Okay. So
Mm.
he's the president of the New York Knicks.
Oh, wow.
So he
Okay.
had a very successful career with, his father's law firm, which he then parlayed into his own very successful business, representing like LeBron. Um,
James.
Thank
LeBron
you,
James.
because I'm not a sports person, but anyway, and several other people. So he represented sports figures and
Oh,
did very well with that. And I think he sold that business, and the Knicks asked him to be president. So yeah,
oh, how cool is that?
we
Wow.
kept in touch for a long time. Great
Yeah.
guy, great
Yeah.
guy.
Oh, that's great. So, tell us how you met your husband.
So when I was working at Western Maryland College, his parents were on the parents board, which I staffed, and they invited me for Thanksgiving one year, and I was not going home, and so I went over there, and I didn't know about him, but there he was, and he literally won my heart when he asked to see a picture of my cats, because my cats were like my children, and that was when I noticed him.
Ah, well, that's funny. And so you have two daughters and one grandchild and one on the way.
Yes, yes.
That's
I'm not sure if I have clearance to say that, but
oh,
this is only for people on Facebook. I think that's okay because
yeah.
we're well along.
Oh,
but
okay. It was on Facebook, so I mean I
right,
can cut
right.
this.
No, that's
Okay.
okay. That's all right. But yes, and it's a granddaughter, and we're thrilled.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. And your daughter's feeling well. It's all going well.
Good days, bad days.
Oh, okay. All right. So anybody that you were tight with during high school that you lost touch with?
Yes. I always wonder what happened to Connie Rocco. And I
Yeah.
searched Facebook to try and find her. I have Googled her. I have no idea what happened to her. So if
Mm,
anybody knows, I would love
yeah.
that's somebody I would love to reconnect with.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So a standout memory from high school, a real positive experience, a friend interaction, maybe a low experience, anything stand out to you?
Um, I think the best time that I had in high school, it's funny. I was class president freshman through junior year, and then for senior year, Greg Deegan ran, I ran, and Reggie Wu ran to have a little fun. And it threw the election, and my understanding from Doug Lyons is that I lost by 7 votes.
Oh wow.
And it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I mean, for so long, both Greg and Reggie apologized. They were so sorry, but they don't know. They did me such a favor. I was way too serious for 3 years. And so senior year, I really broke out. And Greg asked me, what do you want to do? Whatever role you want to play in class government. And so Sharon Linden and I decided we wanted to co-chair the prom because she had chaired the junior prom and I had helped her because I was class president. We had fun doing that. But so we co-chaired the senior prom. We laughed our way through senior year. That's all I did was laugh and have fun with Sharon.
That's
And
great.
yeah. And then the prom turned out, pretty nice. So yeah, so it was wonderful.
That's great.
Mhm.
So, Robin, is there anything that you wish classmates knew about you, either back in the day or now, that you want to share with them?
Yeah. So I guess the big thing, and I have a Caring Bridge website that my daughter started shortly after I was diagnosed, and I've had an opportunity to share on that website. But I grew up Jewish. I grew up surrounded by Jewish people, at Cherry Hill East, and um, in my I guess mid 30s, I became a follower of Jesus, and it has completely transformed my life. And it has um, allowed me during this season, which is a bittersweet season. I mean, I'm feeling like totally rained down with blessings. However, it's the long goodbye, because I know that my life is limited. This new drug that I'm on will carry me, I don't know, maybe another year or something like that. And once it stops working, if they haven't come out with anything else, I will go home to be with Jesus. Um, but I'm okay with that. And it's because, um, you know, I know who I'm going to be with and where I'm going to be. And that's in heaven, which is like the most amazing place to be. And I'm going to be with Jesus, just enveloped in love. And that, obviously has been a huge transformation in my life. Sometimes people from Cherry Hill East say, like, how did you go from, being a Jewish New Jersey girl to being a Jesus freak, which, I will own that. And it's, because after my children were born, I started to ponder the meaning of life. And I started to look into Judaism. I was looking into other religions and just trying to figure out so that I could teach my own kids and not just say, well, I'm Jewish because my parents were Jewish, or I'm a Democrat because my parents were Democrats or Republicans or whatever. I wanted to find answers myself that I could share with my children. And I very clearly came to the conclusion that I did not learn the end of the story as a Jewish person in Cherry Hill. And I'm very proud of my Jewish um, roots, but I feel like that's not the end of the story. That's rich in history, and but that's not the end of the story. And it's just very important to me in this season of life to have the opportunity to share that with people, because it is, I think, the most. There's not. We're all going to die, whether it's next week, next month, next year. Not one of us will escape that, and so I think that there comes a time when you put down the book, turn off the TV, whatever the distractions of this world are, and you ask yourself, like, what do I believe? And if you're not firm on the answer, you need to go explore and find the answer, because the moment will come when you'll be where I am, or um, and it's I have an incredible peace having taken the time to do that a long time ago and develop a relationship with God.
Mm. Well, I don't share your faith, but by the same token, I'm so inspired by your story, the postings of your daughters and you, and just the fact that you're at peace. I think that's there's no other word other than inspirational, and I don't speak for anybody else, but I just have to imagine that our classmates feel the same way. The fact that you're willing to share this with all of us, it makes me less afraid to know what is going to come. Um, so I just want to thank you for that. You truly are an inspiration to all of us.
Oh, thank you.
So changing the tone here, I don't know how to segue. Um, have you been back in the building? And if
Oh,
so,
yeah.
when, and how did it make you feel?
So last summer, Betty Ann Street did a sort of This Is Your Life thing.
Okay.
And my younger daughter, Caroline, came along, and we stayed with Betty Ann for 2 days, which is not uncommon for me, for me to do. But for Caroline to come was really special. I didn't know everything that Betty Ann had planned, but she had contacted Barclay Elementary. It's not Barclay Elementary School anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a building. And she contacted the people in there. We got a tour. We drove by Heritage. We went to the people that owned my childhood home. And we weren't able to go in because of renovations that were being done. But we went in the backyard and looked at things and talked to him, drove by Cover Bridge Swim Club, where I spent a lot of time. And the grand finale was going to Cherry Hill East. And somebody gave us a tour. I wish I could remember her name. She was amazing. And it was probably like I don't know, I think it was like 2 hours long. We saw everything,
Wow.
did everything. It was spectacular.
Did you smoke outside the Sea Wing?
Not with stage 4 lung cancer, thank you.
Well, that's great. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back in 1980, and you're looking 40 years down the road. Did you see yourself where you are?
Oh, no, no, no. No, I thought that I was going to be deep into a career. In a million years, I would not see myself where I am now. And yet I really feel like I'm exactly where God wants me to be. So that's the best place to be. But oh my gosh, I loved fundraising, and that's something I would have liked to do, but absolutely made the right decision for our family. But no, I had a lot of ambitions.
Did you ever think you might be in politics?
I did, until we went to Girls State,
Oh yeah.
and I saw what that was about, and totally, I mean, like, I thought I was going to go there and, run for an office. They do all that mock
Yeah.
political stuff. And when I saw what some of the girls were doing, like I was like, nope, I'm just going to have fun with, Sharon and
Meg
Alexis,
and yeah.
uh, yeah, and Meg, and yeah. So we just had a good time. Yeah, and then I was absolutely like not going to, though I did, major in political science
Right.
in college, mostly because I didn't really know what else. I was interested in politics, so I thought, well, let me just major in this, and I thought, well, maybe I would go to law school or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. So if you could give your 18-year-old self advice, or maybe this is advice you gave to your 18-year-old daughters, what would it be?
Um, well, I don't I wish that I knew what I know now in terms of the meaning of life and how temporary this all is, and frankly, how unimportant it all is, big picture. Like, that's what I would tell myself. And that's how I tried to raise my daughters. I think they understand that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm calling this last bit the Fast and Furious finish, which may or may not be fast or furious. Um, so did you have a favorite TV show, movie, or book from our high school days?
You know, I would say anything Barbara Streisand in terms of a movie. I loved Barbara Streisand, and that's the influence of my father. When I was living in the house with him, he was always listening to Barbara Streisand, Frank Sinatra, um, Johnny Mathis, like, just, what a typical high school, um, student probably wouldn't be listening to, but I fell in love with all of that when I was very young. And so I just kept listening primarily to Barbara Streisand. So I would see every movie she was in.
Yeah. Uh, how about a genre of music that you enjoyed?
Um, well, I have to tell you, I am still all about 70s music. I mean, it's the only thing really, um, that, I listen to a lot of Christian, like, worship music, but 70s is my thing.
And of course, Heaven's Edge.
Right. And Heaven's Edge, isn't he incredible? And I mean, there are two songs on his album that I think are just phenomenal. And they're like more mainstream because I'm not really into the heavy, rock.
Yeah.
But um, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
they're on my Spotify playlist, and I listen to them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite place to eat or hang out when you were in high school?
Probably any ice cream shop, and Sharon Linden was right there with me. So we hit them all.
They had them all.
That's pretty much what we did on Friday nights.
All right. So, whoops. Try not to knock over my water. Okay. So here we go.
Oh my. What does that say? True? This is my high school yearbook picture. True happiness consists not in the multitude of friends, but in the worth and choice. Okay. She was wiser than I remembered her to be.
So you're happy with your picture and your quote stood up.
So I'll
Yeah.
tell you that my friends were like my family. And yeah. Yep.
And so you know the answer to this one because you listen to the podcast. So you know the name of our high school yearbook.
Yes. Edelon?
I think it's Eidolon. Yep. But this is the question that we need to find an answer to. Why did we have a Western theme? Do you
I
remember?
I know who you can ask.
Who?
Ask Mindy Estep because, well, and Deborah Smead. Does Deborah Smead not know?
I interviewed Deborah Smead, and she does not know.
Oh,
So Mindy, we got to get them.
Interview Mindy and find out.
Okay. Well, she was on the yearbook staff as well then.
Two of them were the main editors. I
Yeah.
actually edited senior year the activities.
Oh, okay.
See, I had so much free time. I was only planning the prom. But yeah, no, I
Well,
don't know.
there were those classes, I think, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, those two, right?
Yeah, those two.
Yeah, but yeah, I wonder. You would think Mindy or Deborah would.
Yeah, Deborah didn't know, but yeah, that has become my quest with this group chat here to find out how did we end up with that yearbook theme. And so any last things you want to say to our classmates who might be listening?
Just I want to say I am so thankful for the support because it hasn't just been the couple of people that I mentioned. There have been a group of people that have just gotten together and sent me flowers. And it's incredible, Kara, how they always show up on the right day. When I've gotten some hard news or I'm just really feeling lousy, which is not the case now. This was before, on the old drug, which was much harder. And anyway, I just am so incredibly grateful, and it just goes to show you how deep those relationships go. And it's so many years later, and I haven't seen them, but they care enough to reach out.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful catching up with you, Robin.
It's been wonderful, and you're going to let me interview you,
I
right?
am. We're gonna find a time for sure.
And I will come up with great questions, Kara. I'm
Oh
serious.
wait, I don't get the same questions.
No. We'll use some of your questions, but I'll come up with some of my own too. And I love doing that.
Good.
So, yeah.
All right. We'll do that. Well, thank you. Thank you for being on. It's been how long? And I think I speak for everyone. Wish you nothing but the best. Enjoy your grandchild and your family and everything you do.
Thanks, Kara. Take
All
care.
right. Take
Bye.
care. Bye. Thanks for joining me on It's Been How Long? The podcast about Cherry Hill High School East students from the late 1970s and the early 80s. A shout out to my cousin Brad Corbett, whose podcast We Weren't Friends in High School inspired me to do this podcast and whose advice and encouragement have been so helpful. Thanks also to my husband, Randy Cockdale, who read all the fine print on the podcast hosting website so I wouldn't have to. And thanks to Jeff Lyons, content consultant and guinea pig, and to Deborah Smead, also content consultant. And thank you to all our classmates who are listening in. See you next week.